It's a special episode of Family TV Uncovered because tonight we're flipping the script. Instead of family movie night, it's parents' night. The kids are in bed, the snacks are out, and you're wondering, what should we watch tonight? I've got just the thing. A show packed with laughs, charm, and one of the most iconic comedy leads of all time. You might not guess it right away, but once you do, you'll be saying, let's watch it again. Stay tuned. There's no greater classic show on TV than Three's Company. The personal connection with this show and myself, other than I watched it growing up, is that it was actually filmed on the CBS lot where I used to work. And that always was so cool to me, walking down the halls of Television City and knowing that John Ritter, Joyce DeWitt, Suzanne Summers, and all the others walked those same halls. As I stated a few moments ago, the cast of this show include John Ritter, who plays Jack Tripper, Joyce DeWitt, who plays Janet Wood, Suzanne Summers plays Chrissy Snow, Jenny Lee Harrison plays Cindy Snow, Chrissy's cousin, Richard Klein plays Larry Dallas, Priscilla Barnes plays Terry Alden. We have the wonderful Don Knotts, who plays Ralph Furley, Norman Fell plays Stanley Roper, and Audrey Lindley plays Helen Roper. This is an unbeatable cast. It's no wonder this show was such a hit. It aired between 1976 and 1984 and had about 175 episodes. Additionally, this show did push some limits because television had different rules regarding what could be shown on TV. It was considered risque when it was on the air. If you've never seen this show, you're in for a treat. There's no episode that isn't funny. John Ritter is superb. I consider John Ritter almost on par with Robin Williams and Lucille Ball with his comedic genius. And in fact, Lucille Ball actually guest starred on 2 episodes of Three's Company. It was like a retro look back at the show. And John Ritter just wasn't ashamed to do anything on this show to make people laugh. He does so much, I guess you could say, slapstick comedy. It seemed like there were no limits with this man's creativity. Just like with Lucille Ball with I Love Lucy. In this show, Jack Tripper lives with 2 women, Chrissy and Janet, which at the time, again, was kind of pushing the limits of TV back then. One man living with 2 women who they weren't married. But the landlord, however, had more traditional family values and didn't believe in a man living with 2 women. So in order to get Jack to stay in the apartment, they told Mr. Roper that Jack was gay. There are so many innuendos and jokes that were done very tastefully back then regarding Jack's homosexuality. And I say homosexuality in quotations because he wasn't really gay. And later on, when Mr. Furley, who's played by Don Knotts, comes into the scene as the new landlord, Mr. Roper or Stanley tells Mr. Furley about Jack, too. The reason why this show is so funny is because all the shows are predominantly based on misunderstandings, and it's the misunderstandings that make this show so funny. There's also great gags with both Chrissy Snow and her cousin, Cindy Snow. They're not on the show together at the same time. Chrissy Snow plays kind of like the ditz, and she plays it fantastically. And her cousin Cindy Snow, who comes on the show later, and she's very much a klutz, bumps into things, always coming in through the front door, either hitting Jack or Janet, bumping into people or causing people to hurt themselves. And then we have Larry, who's played by Richard Klein, plays Jack Tripper's best friend. And he gets into some crazy situations, and he's a car salesman, and he's always about dating so many girls and getting money an easy way. He's very much like a schemer almost. He's always trying to think of the next great thing to make money. Now the Ropers, Stanley and Helen, are the landlords in the first few seasons, and they're an older married couple, and Stanley acts pretty much like the unhappy yet happy husband who's married to the love-starved wife, Helen Roper. And there are so many cracks made about their marriage. It's just hilarious. Like there's one episode when Helen comes in from the grocery store and she asks Stanley, was that all you're going to do today, is lie around all day and do nothing, or sit around all day and read the paper? And he goes, well, the day's not over yet. And he goes, well, aren't you going to paint that wall or something, or paint the apartment? You've been promising to paint it all week. And he says, well, the week's not over yet. And he goes, yeah, but you've been saying that all year. Well, the year's not over yet. He goes, well, how can you sit around looking at something so drab and dull and boring? He goes, I don't know. How long have we been married? So it's things like that, those kinds of cracks that he makes about their marriage. And It's just hilarious. Some of them seem mean, but I mean, they're all done tastefully, and it's just super funny to watch them as an older couple. And then he's always uncomfortable with Jack touching him because he knows Jack's gay, and I say gay again in quotations, and makes jokes at him. Like there's an episode where they're at the bar and Stanley doesn't want to go home because he knows Helen wants some attention in the bedroom, and he runs into Jack at the bar and says, "Jack, you're lucky. You can be friends with women. You don't have to do things for women." And Jack's like, what kind of things? And he's all, things. And Jack's like what? And he's like, and he can't think of something. He doesn't want to say, you don't have to sleep with women. Jack kind of interrupts and says, "You mean like putting up shelves?" And Stanley says, "Yeah, that's it. Putting up shelves. If it were up to Helen, I'd be putting up a shelf every night." And Jack says, "That's a lot of shelves." So it's things like that, innuendos and jokes that go on in this show. Janet, who's the other roommate, is the more logical one, the one with her head on her shoulders. But there's awesome moments between her and Jack Tripper. There's an episode in one of the later seasons where she asked Jack to take her to a dinner party to make this guy jealous. This guy is the host of the party. It's on an island, so Janet and Jack have to catch one of the private planes to fly them over to the island. Well, Jack's deathly afraid of flying, has a fear of flying, and he ends up getting some advice from Larry that doesn't go over too well and creates one of the biggest and best moments of Three's Company. John Ritter did such a fantastic job in this episode, and it's one of the best moments of the entire show, one of the best scenes. And Janet gets upset trying to tell Jack, "You're embarrassing me," and all this stuff. So there's another one too, another episode where Janet's at work. She works at a flower shop, and there's her boss, the owner, hires some kind of efficiency expert to come into the store and analyze Janet's work and to make sure she's doing everything the best that she can. But she gets on Janet's nerves because she's kind of just like telling Janet how to do her job. And Janet ends up quitting, and her friends, Mr. Furley and Terry and Jack all want to help to try to get her job back. I'm trying not to story tell, but I want to give you guys a taste of the comedic genius. One of the lines in this episode when Mr. Furley and Terry go to the flower shop is, Mr. Furley's about to say, "Hi, I'm Ralph Furley, and this is my wife." And he was going to say wife, but Terry interrupts and says his daughter, because I guess she doesn't want to be known as marrying this old guy, because Mr. Furley is much older than the kids. And he gives this look like, okay. And he goes, "My daughter here is getting married, finally," and trying to make a jab back at her for not wanting to be called his wife. And the efficiency expert says, "Oh, well, then you'll probably be wanting some floral arrangements or some house plants." And he goes, "No, actually what we need are some 3/4-inch nails." And she's telling them, "Well, we don't have nails." And then Terry interjects saying, "Well, what's holding all that stuff up on the walls?" The efficiency expert says, "Nails." And I think the efficiency expert's name is Bobby. And he goes, "I thought you said you didn't have any nails." She goes, "Well, we don't sell nails," or something like that. He goes, and then he goes, "All right, well, just give us our hammer and we'll be on our way." And he goes, "Well, we don't have hammers." And then Terry says, "Well, how'd you get all that stuff up on the walls?" And Bobby says, "With a hammer." And Mr. Furley says, "Aha, we'll take that one." So these are just some of the great writings, some of the great scripts that the writers wrote. So much great humor. It's just, you cannot not laugh watching this show. Honestly, I've let my children watch a few of these episodes, and I'm very selective. But of course, if you feel you can share some of the episodes with your children, of course, that's on you. But I pretty much made this show just for parents, because I know it's important that parents also spend time bonding with each other and to cultivate your relationship. And I just think one great way is to find a common show that you can enjoy together and laugh about together, and just sit back and watch something just to watch something, just for entertainment. No discussions on a whole politics or ideology. There's none of that in there. This was just for straight laughter. You truly do see the friendship in this series. And that's one of the most beautiful things about this show. John Ritter was just fantastic. You're going to fall in love with him, the cast. You cannot go wrong with this show. And that's why I suggested it for Parents' Night. So this weekend, plan on watching Three's Company with your significant other. That brings us to the end of this special Parents' Night episode. I hope you enjoyed learning about Three's Company. In a previous episode, I talked about a family sitcom with an amazing cast. One of those cast members played the youngest sibling on that show. But what happens when that same kid swaps family life for a dream mansion and a bank account bigger than he ever imagined? In our next episode, we're diving into a 90s film packed with adventure, wish fulfillment, and just a little bit of trouble. You'll have to tune in to find out. Do me a favor and share this episode with friends and family who you think will enjoy this content, and head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review to help me grow this podcast. You can also send me a message on my website at familytvuncovered.com/message us. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and I will catch you on the next episode.